Hey, how you doing? I'm Steve. Welcome to Van Life with Steve. Thanks for joining the channel and sharing in the van life adventure, aka my midlife crisis. So today this video is really about, or really for, people that are just starting van life or people that are considering van life. And I just wanted to share some tips on how to keep your van cool during hot weather, because I'm still down in Florida and it's a scorcher. I think it's 95 right now. So here's some tips. Tip number one is to get a white van. Here's my van, the Vindication. Now you are at risk of, or you're going to have a little bit more difficulty with black RV streaks. Mine has a few of those. I got to wash them off. And I don't mean to discriminate based on van color, but it's just physics. White reflects or repels most colors, and darker colors absorb more, and that's going to absorb more heat. And that'll also be important when the air conditioner, when we talk about that here in a couple minutes. Okay, so number one, if you can, get a white van. Number two, park in the shade if at all possible. So this is the early afternoon and the shade from these trees hasn't, the sun hasn't gone long enough, low enough for the shadows to get long enough. But at least in this case, I have the windshield that's in the shade, and that's blocking a lot of the sun's rays. So park in the shade if at all possible, and that's also important in terms of the air conditioner as well. Okay, number three, if you're just in a spot and it's just too hot, gain latitude and gain altitude. So head north and go up into the mountains. And being from Florida, where our highest elevation is about 400 feet, I didn't have an appreciation for how quickly the temperature cools as you go up into the mountains. And if you just look at the difference in temperature between like Santa Fe, New Mexico and Las Vegas, Nevada, I know one's in kind of more of a desert than the other, but Santa Fe is at quite a bit higher altitude, and it's a lot cooler during the summertime. So go north and go up into the mountains. Number four, so if you can't park in the shade, so if there weren't any shade right here, you need to point the back of the van at the sun. And I'll show you when we get inside as to why that's important. But it basically reduces your, I guess, your cross section of the van that gets heated directly by the sun. And it's a lot easier to block the back windows, mine are always blocked, than the windshield. Okay, so those are the three tips dealing with the outside. I'm not going to deploy the awning. I actually don't use it, but you can use the awning, extend it out, and that will get some shade on the side of the van. Also, to kind of go along with the rear, so you want to point the rear at the sun first, and if you can't do that, you're going to want to do the driver's side, and I'll explain when we get inside. So yeah, I was a little premature there, but that's going to end all the outside tips. If I missed something, or if you have a tip, please leave me a comment below letting me know what it is. Or if you have a question about any of those tips I share, please leave a comment below and I'll do the best I can to answer it. Okay? All right, let's go hop inside. Oh. Actually, hang on a second, I missed the fifth one. So, I don't have one, but what a lot of people will do is they'll put a cover on the outside of the windshield. And it has to go on the outside, not on the inside. I have one for the inside. And that, you have to physically stop the heat from actually getting into the van. And the ones on the inside, it basically kind of just directs it upwards. So there are a lot of people that put them on the outside. That will help some, but you're still in a tin can and the heat's still going to radiate through the body. Okay, now for sure we're definitely jumping inside. Let's go. Okay, now that we're inside, let's go over a few things before I start talking about the air conditioner. Number one, you need to know how to keep your van from getting heat soaked. So this is when you park the van for the day in a parking lot, something like that, and you're going to be gone for a while, and you don't want to come back to a super hot van. Now it's going to be hot, there's only so much you can do, but here are some things you can do. So my van has the dual pane acrylic windows, and what I like to do is with one of these small ones, either on this side or on that side, is, you know, if I'm in a public place, it has these little latches here, and there's a little space to where air can get in, and so I like to do that. And then obviously we'll kind of close this up a little bit, and then I'll come over here to the max air fan, and I don't turn on the fan. What I do is I push these two arrows and I open the vent, and so as the air heats up, it'll rise to that vent, and then fresh air will come to those cracks. And you know, you can crack multiple windows, and again, they're secured. So if you're in the van, what I'll do is, or if you're in you know, a secure place or a place, you know, something like that, is you can pop these up and you can get a lot more airflow. And here you can get this one. And what I found is, if you know, you're in the shade, and if we come over here and we get the max air fan going, you can get a lot of airflow, and it can be fairly comfortable in here. If it's about 80, 85 out and you're in the shade, you'll be okay. Okay, so that's what you can do without the air conditioner. A couple of additional things. Let me close this up. Okay, so this was kind of a new thing for me, is you have to kind of monitor your fridge, because it gets so hot in the van that can affect the cooling of the refrigerator. So basically what it comes down to is there's a tray that goes under the freezer, and if you're in hotter weather, you need to take this tray out, so the cooling coils or what have you can, as we get down here, so the cooling coils that are under here, so they can, the cold air can be unimpeded, and it'll keep your food cold. Yeah, I need to clean the fridge, but so because of that, and because you have to kind of monitor that, I recommend getting a thermometer. These are like $9 at Walmart or something. And another thing, other reason why you got to watch the fridge is, and you have the tray like I was talking about, is then when you get to more normal weather or cooler weather, you need to put that tray back in, and you still need to watch it, because it'll get so cold in there, it'll actually freeze your food. So that was a new one for me, and that was an adjustment for Vanlife, is you actually have to monitor the temperature in the fridge. And again, get you a thermometer for that. Okay, final couple things. When it comes, because it gets so hot in here, when it comes to temperature sensitive items, you think about like your batteries and laptops or medication or something like that, you kind of think about where you want to store it. These cabinets, they ain't gonna work, they'll get too hot. Okay, so kind of what I like to do is, and I'll be careful here that I don't break my phone or anything, is there's some storage under here, and you know, it's low and it's dark, and so I'll put stuff under there to try to keep it cool. You're talking about like contact lens solution, stuff like that. And then finally, as you come in here, you'll notice I have my curtain, and then over here we have the bathroom door. So what I like to do is close both of these off, and both in the back and then in the front. That kind of creates a thermal barrier to where it will trap, to a certain extent, the air, and so it's got to heat up the air before it can radiate through the curtain or the doors. And again, if you think back to where I was talking about pointing the back of the van, this right here will really help you, because it's got to heat up the air in the bathroom before it gets into the coach here. And also there's a vent in the bathroom. Make sure you pop that up. I mean, it's going to get super hot in the bathroom, but that vent it'll kind of help keep it from getting super hot. So you want to section off your van, and I know this is specific to this model, but this is one of the reasons why I got a K floor plan of the Travado, is because I knew I could section this off, and it goes from being 21 feet to now you're just at 21 feet in length, and so you have a lot smaller area that you have to cool. Okay, all right, so if all else fails, I have a KL, K for lithium. The K models just have the generator, and again I have a 2022 Travado KL, and it's on a 2021 Ram ProMaster chassis, and I've been pretty happy with it. So this has the Volta system, and I have the extra battery pack. Maybe not so necessary to get the extra battery pack, but I think they pretty much make them standard now. So it's 12,800 watts of usable power, and like I said, if it gets too hot in here, I already have the inverter on, and we'll come over here and we'll cut on the AC. Boom. Put that on high cool. So this has multiple settings, and this should kick on here in just a minute. I'm gonna stand over here. So this has multiple settings. I got it on high cool right now. So cool is obviously for cool, and then high and low is the fan. And when you're in the van and it's hot, you want to have it on high cool. What that means is that the fan will keep going on high, but the condenser will cut on and off. So when it's running, if we can see over here, that's almost 1,500 watts. Okay, and you think about a 12,800 watt battery, so it can continuously run the compressor. Sorry, I might have said condenser, the compressor on the air conditioner for 8.5 hours, and that's great. But again, it doesn't make you invincible, and that was kind of a reality check for me. I mean, I've been super happy with it, but it's not, even with all that power and the air conditioner, it's not a really good use of resources to just sit in here in the hot sun all day, because in 8.5 hours, you're gonna deplete your battery. And it's actually not gonna take that long, because if you're using to, you know, play PlayStation, or you're cooking, or you're using a computer or something like that. So 8.5 is sort of like a best case scenario. And again, that's if you're running the compressor continuously. So as you're running high cool, if you get in the shade to where the compressor will cut off, it'll get down to a temperature, and then it will just run the fan, and that only uses 300 watts. So the average is about 1,000. So realistically, if you get into the shade and all that stuff, you can do 12 hours. Now, that's running high cool. There's also an auto, which will just cut the whole thing off. And that's if you can get in moderate temps, and if you can get in the shade. So auto, it'll cool down a couple degrees below what you have your thermometer set at, or your thermostat set at. Mine's at 78. And so it'll cool it down to 76 or something like that, and then it'll cut it off. And then you're just using the power from the inverter. And if you do that, it uses about 700 watts. So that will extend your air conditioning even more, okay? But now the reality of the situation is that even with this battery system, if you're in a hot situation, or if you're in a place where it's hot, you need to go where it's cooler, or you need to get out of the van. So go to a library, go to the movies, go to a shopping mall, something like that, or drive during the hottest part of the day. It's just not a good, even though you can sit in here with the air conditioner going, you're gonna end up with a dead battery at the end of the day. And now you can charge up the battery very quickly, so if you're driving somewhere, that might be okay. But if you're at a place and you're parked, it's not a good idea to sit here and just drain the battery all the time, because then you're gonna have to do auto starts and all that stuff. Now, this does have an auto start feature. What that means is that you can idle the engine, and that will charge your battery 30%. It runs for an hour, and it uses about 1 gallon of gasoline. And the time I tested it, I've only used it one time. That was without the cab air conditioner. So what you can't do with this thing is if you see over here, you can run, when you're running the auto start, you can run the cab air conditioner to help cool you down while you're recharging the battery. And how the auto start system works is, so it will run for an hour. Again, it's 30%. It uses 1 gallon of gas. You can use that until you get down to 1/4 of a tank. So if you think about in practical terms, you know, you have to drive to get somewhere. So let's say you use 1/4 of a tank to get to somewhere, and so then you can use a half tank before you get down to 1/4 tank, and you have to drive back. So that's going to be 12 gallons. 30% is 3.6. If you have a full charged battery, that's going to be 1 plus 3.6, so you're going to have 4.6 times 12,800. And if my math is right, I believe that is 58,880 watt hours of total power. And so you could probably run the air conditioner for 5 or 6 days on that. And if my math is right, come on, you have to give me a like and subscribe, right? Okay. So anyways, so the main thing is, you know, this battery system is great, but it does not make you invincible. I think it's the best setup of all the other things I've seen. If you got a generator system, hey, I'm sure that works great. I've seen how people travel with these things now, and so I can see how you can get by without a generator, but I just love the lithium system and it works best for me. Okay, so here are some tips on how to keep your van cool. I know not everybody's gonna have, you know, the lithium system and all that stuff. If you're getting started with van life or you're curious about it, I hope this gives you some insight that you can use to help you out. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, take care, bye.